Good morning, everybody. Hope you are all having a fabulous summer. We are very, very excited to have you guys join us this morning for our session. This is our inaugural digital session for us, so this is very exciting. Our session today is titled Minds On Activities to Build Powerful Number Sense. Our focus today is on really having students talk. This is a continuation of the work that Sam and Alicia have done this week as well with the how and the why. So we're really excited to extend the work that they have really set a great foundation for us for today. Before we begin, just like to quickly introduce ourselves. This is my partner, Kate Allison.
Hello, everybody. We are broadcasting from my kitchen table, and it's looking pretty nice outside. So hopefully everyone can get out there and enjoy the weather later. We also have a guest this morning. This morning, our guest is Carlo Van Hastry, who has joined us at our kitchen table.
Hello, everyone.
Is a colleague of mine from my days teaching at Lansdowne. He teaches grade 7, 8 there, and we're happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. We're quite active online. We're trying to de-silo classrooms and share resources and share ideas. We really love it if you wanted to follow us online on Twitter at Kate Does Math, or at Negotiating Math as well. And we're going to continue on our conversation that we began today on Twitter this afternoon. So if you'd like to participate in that, please feel free to join us.
Okay. We would really like to have people use the chat room for our presentation, so we thought we would get that started. If people wanted to share a word or an emoji, we did say 3 there, but if you just want to share 1 or 2 to give us an idea of how your summer is going, we'd love to hear from you.
We'll give you a few minutes to work on that.
Carlo, maybe you could get us started.
I am already typing, but I'm a little bit slow here.
Ooh, Angela says she's busy, fast, and fun. Yes, that always tends to happen. August seems to be here before we know it, and then we're back in school. Oh, I see Carla. Camping, swimming, painting. Hi, Alex. Lots of beach books. Ben, oh, there's a whale. I think I saw a whale there. Carolyn is camping. Alicia is busy boating. Oh, and a different Alicia. Alicia Shank is busy camping. Lots of sun and pool for Jen Gilpin. Let's see, Jesse. Oh, very relaxed. Sounds like a fun summer.
Janice hanging out by the pool.
Teen, meniscus. Why do you have to go there? Jana, pool, ice. Interesting. Rod, I'm emoji challenged. Yes, laptops tend to do that.
Pam actually has emoji.
Oh, Pam, well done. She's on her iPhone. Allison is boating and poolside. And Leslie, oh, she's camping. Pools, travels. Kristen, sun, beach, cruising. Yeah. And she has a little emoji too. Good job.
Perfect. Sounds like everyone is having a fabulous summer so far. We're really super excited to have you join us today, and we really appreciate you joining us today. We realized that it's a big ask that you are giving up time away from your families and away from the things that you care about and the jobs that need to be done before we head back to school. And we do really appreciate you guys
taking the time to sort of be with us. It's good to get your head sort of wrapped back into things. I know that Teen had tweeted out earlier that people are starting to have the back to school dreams and thinking about everything you wanted to accomplish. And it's a good time of year to sort of get the ball rolling. So having said that, I think we'll get started because we want to value everybody's time, sort of finish in a good amount. If we move on to our next screen here, we have our targets for today. We're going to be talking about activities that include intentional talk, and intentional talk moved by the teacher. We're going to share with you some activities, some hands-on activities that you can think about using right in your classroom. And then we're going to finish off with some continuum and curriculum connections. Okay, so we have a image here, and typically this is what we see in classrooms where the teacher is at the front. There's lots of students, they're all looking at the teacher, and we want to just talk about, is this a conversation, right? Is this what you would consider a conversation?
We think about, when we look at this type of setup, we often see that teachers feel they're having a great conversation, and that there might be great responses, but what we're missing in this piece is that students are not building upon one another's understanding and constructing the understanding together. It's very teacher directed, and it doesn't allow for students to really see that the learning that we do together is collective, and that it requires one another in order to reach those learning goals that we're trying to achieve.
Okay, so what we want to talk about is the teacher's role as being more of a facilitator in the conversation rather than just the other end of a conversation. So if we flip to our next slide, this is what more of a conversation would look like in a classroom.
So one of the big things that we as educators need to sort of consider is, and it touches upon the conversation that Alicia and Sam had, was that in the typical classroom, teachers are doing 70 to 80% of the talking. And what we know from that is that the person who is doing the thinking is doing the learning. And so we really need to shift that balance to ensure that kids are doing much more of the talking in order to be able to do much more of the thinking.
Right, and the learning. Carla, you're nodding over there. What are your thoughts?
I am, and I have a flashback that kids can really, or students can really, they can do what I'm doing, sitting here nodding and pretending they pay attention to someone who's talking, but they need to start asking questions, and my big word is wonder. I'd like them to wonder, and then have genuine thoughts, and that doesn't happen if the teacher talks 99%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we want them to be comfortable, right? And students are not always comfortable answering. We all know that, and they're more influenced by their peers, especially in the older grades, that if they have that opportunity to have a quick discourse with the person sitting next to them, behind them, across the room that they can walk over to, then that's something that will help them feel a bit more confident with the content.
Something that I've had the opportunity this summer to be involved in some PD that we really looked at was the idea of teachers advancing justice. And sort of when we think about in the classroom, when we are orchestrating a conversation, what are the things that we're thinking about, and really being really deeply intentional when we make those decisions. An example of that is who holds the power within the classroom when a student provides a incorrect answer or an idea that's not complete, then do we always go back to the same student? Do we go to, if it's a female student, do we go to a male? Are we balancing those ideas, and are we considering those things as we are orchestrating these conversations within our classrooms?
And I think it's just being aware and self-reflective that we all have natural tendencies that we go to as teachers. I think it would be very powerful for us to video ourselves and sort of see our nuances and the things that we do all the time that we don't even know. They're so subconscious, and it would really help us be more reflective about what kids were choosing. how we're responding to their answers, and how that impacts what they do in the future and how they respond to us in our questioning, right? Okay, so
we're gonna we'd like to share some exemplars of minds-on activities that are designed to facilitate sort of a lot of things. They're kind of a lot of bang for the buck. When we're looking at these minds-on activities, we're thinking about engaging students in the math for that day. We're thinking about getting them excited. And Kate might want to speak a little bit about kind of like that question of, does it have to match the lesson? Does it have to tie into that current strand that we're working on in the classroom that day?
And I would say that when we talk about Minds-On, if you're trying to use it to prepare the kids for the lesson, then yes, you would. And there's often times when you can find things that will lend itself nicely to the goal of the day. But there's also lots of great opportunities for students have intentional time to build their number sense. And as we know, number sense is sort of embedded in all the strands. So actually taking that time to build that sense is really valid and will prove itself in the long term. But you want to make sure that this is not just something that you're doing on the fly. It's something that you're being intentional about, the words that you use, the way that you record it. It doesn't take a lot of preparation, but it is intentional. Yeah, we're going to have this time right now. The kids know we're having this time. They have all the expectations in front of them.
I want to just sort of build on to what Kate said when talking about that time. If you're going to be very purposeful with this time, and it's very intentional, and if we're keeping it to 15 minutes a day, it doesn't seem like a lot of time, but when we actually do the calculations, we're in classrooms 194 days a year, that gives us 2,910 minutes or 48 and a half hours of complete days of instruction. So really that idea that as we build on this work every single day, we make that little bits of progress every day. It's a hugely impactful activity, hugely impact part of our program that can really move students forward.
Do you know what? On a sidebar, that makes me reflect my sister's kids go to a different school who add on 15 minutes of their school day every day, and they get out a week earlier in the summertime. That's how much time that adds up to be.
Well, they're actually
earlier.
They're getting a little ripped off because that's 10 complete days of instruction.
Just telling you, it adds up. I just wanted to add before we go to our first activity that you can kind of think of these as sort of math energizers. If any of you were tribes trained, when we did those kind of energizers, it was time for kids to come together and sort of build a community, a sense of community, but it also gives time for those kids who are just, they need a couple extra seconds to tie their shoes and stuff, time to catch up and not feel rushed, and everyone comes, and at the end of it, everybody is there and ready to be part of it.
It almost ties in with the soft start, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. After transitions and recess, good point, Carla. Yeah, I like that. Like a soft start math.
Any day.
All right. And Kate is going to lead us through our first activity this morning, which is called Guess My Rule.
Right. You will have to change your screen.
You want to just kind of walk me through this?
Sure, yeah, okay. So Guess My Rule. So in Guess My Rule, this is a whole class game, and you can change the rules as you go based on the age of your participants. But basically, I'm going to give you the parameters that the rule that I'm going to build the numbers around is between the numbers 0 and 100. And your job is to guess numbers between 0 and 100. And if it fits with my rule that I have in my head, then I will write that number on the yes side. And if it doesn't fit, it goes on the no side. And so through that, the kids are starting to do lots of mental math and putting numbers together and building how they are putting numbers together and making that relationship. So let's just start. And I would really like if you could participate in the chat room. We're looking for your participation. We're looking for people to guess numbers. Okay. Okay. So, all right. Whoa, whoa. I can. I see some numbers coming up here. Hang on, hang on. Okay. Oh my goodness.
Okay, Kate, I'll help you out.
Okay.
Okay, Mike would like to try 21.
21. 20. Yes, actually, that does fit my rule. So now, what does that tell you, Mike? What are we thinking?
Can I think out loud?
You may think out loud.
So 21 is an odd number.
Okay, so would you like to try another odd number?
Oh yeah, well I'll take one from people that have already guessed. So actually Rod says 49, which is also odd. 49.
Ooh, that could be it. That actually does fit my rule.
Yes.
That is a 9.
Lisa is thinking 75. Where do you think? Where would 75
Ooh,
fit?
so 75 is an odd number. Let me think about that. No, that doesn't fit my rule actually. I'm trying to keep my hands steady. That doesn't fit my number. So now what do we know? What are the students immediately thinking now? They're thinking what Carlo thought, odd and even numbers. That's not going to work. I have to shift my thinking. How else can I put the numbers that do go together?
I see a lot of people are guessing the rule. What we would prefer is that if you have a rule in your head, please test that rule by presenting a number. So you're going to give us a number to make sure that you are very solid and you're confident in your rule. So
I just am going to write a few others. I see here Alex wrote 10. That does not go with my rule. Alicia wrote 3. That does not go with my rule. So now what are we thinking here? What can we tell? So do we know by having the 10 in the no column, what is that telling us, Carlo? What's something that having the 10 tells us?
I would say, Kate, that if the 10 is in the no column, then I think a 20 and a 30 and every other 10 might be there.
Right, right. So it can't be a multiple of 10, right? Okay. Or maybe it tells you can't end in 0. Or something else that you think of. Okay, so let's continue on here. Let's continue on. So, having said that, that's interesting because 70 does fit my rule. 70 does fit my rule. So what does that tell you? So Laura chimed in really quick earlier on that it's an odd number. We've already discovered that it's not the case. Odd number, multiple of 3 and 7. So we have to make sure that we're only guessing one thing at a time. Composite number. Wow.
So Alicia's good morning, Alicia. Alicia's thinking 14. So
14. Why would you pick 14? I wonder if Alicia, if you can hear me, why would you pick 14? Can you just type that in there? Because it is a multiple of 7. So are you seeing that these numbers on the yes side are all multiples of 7? Okay, so if I told you that 14 was here, would that help you out? And yes, you're right. That was a quick one for us, obviously, right? So my rule was multiples of 7. And so we could have gone higher. Interesting, nobody kind of guessed above 70 for that one. Haha, right. But you can see how this game is easily accessible to everybody. It's open for anyone to guess. When I have played this with students and they make a guess that everyone else knows is wrong, for instance, if someone guessed 75, after we discovered that it was an odd and even, they would shout and say, "Why would you guess that? We already know that it's not," and they sort of correct each other. And that kind of learning, not that I don't want to encourage sort of people putting other people down, but there's a way of saying that the other kids will start to put numbers together and look closely at what's going on.
And as a way to kind of support the intentional talk that we're really trying to achieve here is you can also pause and do turn-in talks and have students kind of share with one another what a rule might be, especially as you're just starting out and you don't have very many numbers. There's a lot of potential rules that can be there. So what we're really getting kids to think about is about like the structure of number and potential patterns, and then kind of deductive reasoning as we're moving through the sequence of numbers. Then we can sort of eliminate rules as we go.
And the good thing about this is that you can adjust the rules and choose the participants as you see fit for them, right? So we had a bunch of examples that we thought we could give, like actually some of you guessed some of those. You can do it as easy as even and odd numbers. You could do it just numbers under 30, right? It could be numbers that are multiples of 5s and 10s, if that's where you are in your grade. It could be prime and composite numbers.
Could you have your smartboard on and just have the 100 square on there for people to?
Yeah. So that you guess that, and we don't need to use that one again.
Sure.
That would be a great start. Actually.
Great visual support.
You could even do this in fractions if you wanted to. Division. Some other things I wrote down here is with decimal numbers, so the range could be a little bit different if you wanted to do it between 0 and 1, and have that kind of thinking. So it could go, there's a whole length of area it can go here. The other thing we can do with this is it kind of goes with guess my number individually, where students can come up to the front and have a sticky note on their head with their number, and they have to guess their number by asking, kind of like heads up, right, to give it a little more, and then the students answer for them, yes and no. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now so we can get back to the next screen.
Okay. The next activity we're going to share together this morning, we're going to take a look at, is called Broken Calculator. And our intent with this type of activity is that we want students to really focus in on some really big ideas when working with numbers. So we want them thinking about the idea of decomposition, so breaking numbers apart. We're thinking about how to use operations and combinations of operations. So this is kind of how the activity works. I often launch it with a bit of a story, is that I am like all teachers, lover of the dollar store, and you can head in there and buy some amazing things for under $5. One of the things that I purchased was a calculator, and one of the challenges with the dollar store is that sometimes the things are not great quality. So this is my broken calculator, and I present it to kids fresh from the dollar store, and we present this to our students. And first, we kind of have a discussion about what do you notice, and they're going to point out that some of the keys are blocked out, and what do you wonder? And so they might wonder what keys are underneath. They'll usually sort of work through that very quickly. So in this case, they're going to tell us that the 1, the 2, the 0, and the decimal are the broken keys here. So our challenge.
I couldn't think of that last one. What's the decimal?
Oh, yeah.
So the challenge here is that we want students to get to the answer, and really kind of like in this case, we're taking the answer as the answer is the most boring part. The answer is 21. So our target is 21. So using all of the available keys on the calculator and treating it like you would normally treat a calculator, what are some of the ways that you can make 21 using the broken calculator? So we'll give you a couple minutes to give it a play with it a little bit. You can please contribute your ideas in the chat, and we're interested to see kind of where you take it.
You know what? While we're waiting to do that, Carlo actually told me a great story that this reminded him of last night.
Uh-oh. This might show my age too. Well, yeah, while you're doing your calculations, I was born and raised in Holland, and I remember when I was, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, there was always a game show on once a week, and they had tiles with all the numbers, 0 to 9, and then also tiles with the multiplication, division, and addition and subtraction. And then the game show host somehow they grabbed tiles randomly, and then they had a goal number as well. And these were, grown-ups playing the game. And so the goal was in the thousands, and they had a minute to get as close as they could. And within a minute, they would display their answer and, I don't know, earn points or win a prize. And it was on TV, national TV.
Wow. The Dutch must be very quick in their math.
Or they must be very bored.
Actually, that is really neat.
Yeah.
Like
I still remember it.
Yeah. Oh, look at you guys. 6 times 4 minus 3, 5 plus 5, 5 plus 8 plus 8. Mary Lynn. 65 minus 44. I like that one. Then you have 4 times 4 plus 5 by Courtney. Good. I'm so glad you got on, Courtney. 63 divided by 3 equals 21. Well done, team.
Awesome. So one of the really important things to consider as we're doing these activities with students is that we have anticipated their thinking. So when we're doing this type of activity, students fall into patterns of thinking, and we need to think about kind of what are our prompts to get them to look at this in a different way. So generally speaking, there are some patterns that students kind of fall into as they're working on this. Typically, students will often begin with guess and check. They'll play with numbers. They'll usually additively, so they'll add them. So they'll start with smaller numbers, add them up to try to get to their target number of 21. So if their strategy is guess and check, then what we want to start kind of nudging them towards is being a little bit more strategic. So we can, for example, ask them, well, what kind of number, what can 21 be broken into?
Right.
So we might talk to them about what they might break it down into 10 and 11. So then we can think about what are the different ways to make 10 and what are the different ways to make 11.
Their decomposition skills really come into play there.
Absolutely. And then we can talk about kind of those relationships between the operations. So I noticed that Jesse made a great observation there where students are often going to go to a known fact. So therefore that known fact might be 7 times 3. Then we also want them thinking about, well, 7 times 3 is also equivalent to 7 plus 7 plus 7. And then we also want them to start thinking about, well, what are the ways that we can combine operations? So maybe that we can use, so our challenge to students might be, can you create this using a combination of multiplication and addition?
Right. And you know what, too? I really feel like this actually teaches them how to use a calculator, because how often do kids use a calculator? They think it's cheating, but it's because they haven't been taught or practiced using the calculator. They don't double check their answers. They press things twice sometimes, and they just, they rely on it so heavily without actually having any idea of what the answer should look like. So this is good practice for them.
This also supports the strategies that we've been working on last year with the loss and continua, is that we can start actually modeling things like overshoot and return. So they might say like 3 times 8 minus 3 as an idea of overshoot the number and then return back. There's the idea that that Jesse presented in the group here, and sort of my leading question to when we see 65 minus 44 is, what's another subtraction question that's also going to work, and how do you know? So then we can really sort of dial into that idea of constant difference. So we can adjust one number, we can increase one number by 1, decrease the number, and then adjust the numbers.
Well, especially because 21 is so friendly to 20.
Absolutely. And then we can sort of talk about and often students are uncomfortable with, that we'll start kind of additively. Well, my challenge to them might be, can you do this using division? So I saw that Mike kind of started right there with 63 divided by 3. And we put a constraint in here by taking away that doubling. By not having 2 there, students can't automatically double and just divide. So now they have to start using sort of more sophisticated strategies or thinking.
I like this. Good idea. All right, let's move on.
So what we want, the whole goal of kind of the work that we're doing this week is advocating for intentional talk. We want students to make meaning. We want them to focus on the learning, not on the answer. And then also what this is, which is so valuable to us as teachers, is that we can listen to students thinking. And that provides us such valuable assessment data. We know where students are by the strategies that they use. We can advance them by asking very strategic, intentional questions. And then we can use that to move collectively as a group forward in our understanding.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then there's the shepherd problem. You can read this problem yourself if you like. I'll just read it out loud. There are 125 sheep and 5 dogs in a flock. How old is the shepherd? So what do kids do with this problem, you might say?
So this for me, this is a real problem that I presented to grade 8 students this year. And it really kind of highlighted for us what we have kind of programmed students to do is when they see numbers, they expect that they have to do something with them, whether it makes sense or not. They're going to try something. So,
no questioning going on there. They're not questioning what they're doing. They're just doing something to do it.
They're being procedural.
Right.
Right. So here's a quick video of the student responses.
California coastline, midday Texas sun, misty rain, Smoky Mountain, out here on the run.
A little bit scary, right?
If the shepherd's on the 19, that is
I
scary.
know.
I'm very interested to know what your thoughts are. What are you guys thinking about that? What does that inform us about?
Mm-hmm.
I can totally see if you presented this to your grade 8s, that answers could be, do I just times it, right? They wouldn't even say multiply. Do I just times it? Because they just want to please you with an answer.
What was amazing about this was that so we went through we did this together and we discussed kind of the importance of the meaning making here, and one of the students didn't bring hers up. She wouldn't bring it up, and we kind of talked to class and said, did this make any sense to you?
Yeah.
And she came up to me afterwards and she gave it to me, and she actually wrote down, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And she was so afraid to give it to me.
Yeah.
She had it in her hand. And that tells us a lot about how often when we talk about answers not being important, that's not necessarily the message that students are hearing when we don't value the thinking.
Right.
So let's get into the thinking.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we move them away from this happening? It's our next sort of little bit, and that's with numberless word problems. By the way, I thought we should share that shepherd problem wasn't a problem you made up.
No.
it's a problem that you,
It's been replicated many,
right,
many, many times.
right. So it's not something that is explicit to the students that you used it on.
Correct.
Or gave to.
Yes.
Right. So I just wanted everyone to know that. So here we go, numberless word problem. Some of you might be familiar with this, but basically we are in a numberless word problem. You're taking away the numbers and you're trying to get the kids to sort of make sense of what the context is in the problem. So here we go. We're trying to make it realistic for them so that they want and need to know more and know what that more is.
So one of the common things about all of these getting started or minds-on activities is that every student's going to have an entry point.
Right.
So depending on their level of math understanding, it might be complex or not. So this example here, there were some kids eating ice cream. Some of the kids were eating chocolate ice cream. What we're going to get kids, we're going to sort of be asking is, what do you picture in your mind? What do we know so far? How many kids could be eating ice cream? How many kids could be eating chocolate ice cream? Why do you say that? Have students draw a quick sketch of the story so far. So one of the characteristics of these types of problems is that as we advance, we are going to scaffold by adding just a little bit more information each time.
So here we go. There were 35 kids eating ice cream. Some of the kids were eating chocolate ice cream. So just a little bit more. Now they should have a narrowed down picture in their mind. Okay, I can visualize 35, it's a bit more than class, and so on and so forth. So now what?
Now there are 35 kids eating ice cream. 14 of the kids were eating chocolate ice cream. So what we're going to be getting kids to think about is what's changed. What do we know now that we didn't know before? What's this tell us about kids eating ice cream? So really scaffolding this as we present more information. So really discouraging kids from simply moving to that straight calculation, which we saw they do in our last example.
And they may be predicting what they're going to be asked already, right? And that's okay. That's the point of it, is that now they're rationalizing numbers. Here we go, a little bit more information. The rest of the kids were eating vanilla ice cream. Okay. How many kids were eating vanilla ice cream? Carlo, do you think that was going to be the question at the end?
It was in my head. I don't want to say yes or no, but yeah.
You are a level
I
A
did
student.
think that would be the question.
Okay, so as you go through problems like that, we can do this to any questions. You could actually take EQAO questions and scaffold them right back, which is actually some of the stuff that Kyle Pierce has done on his sort of 3-act task, right? He's taken some of those EQAO questions and actually made them sort of more tangible for students to sort of grasp onto what they were asking.
So we're also going to share out activity sheets for each of the activities that we did today. Included on the activity sheet for this activity are sentence stems and questionings that you're going to want to ask students. So things like, what do you know? What information have you been given? So we're going to provide those to all the participants today as well. So you'll be able to use those to help kind of guide you as you're working through these activities with your students.
Now I want ice cream.
So we really appreciate you guys taking time to join us this morning. So we're just going to quickly consolidate what you're going to be generally looking for when you are designing or thinking of implementing a minds-on activity. So short and purposeful, very clear intent, and often that idea of being visual. If we want to be able to allow students to make it as accessible to students as possible, kind of beginning there is a great start.
Right. Everyone likes to look at something.
Yeah.
Okay, we wanted to support a big idea. So like in the Guess My Rule, the big idea, 7 times table, or maybe how numbers are relating to each other, some kind of big idea, not just sort of on the fly.
It's going to generate talk. Again, that's that piece that allows us to really understand what kids are thinking and be able to move them forward.
This low prep, high yield, right? We don't want it to be a lot of, I hope the corn analogy is good for everybody.
Yeah, the corn analogy was
I'm staring at corn in my backyard. It kind of just came to me. But yeah, we all know that we don't have a lot of time, right? Time is not on our side as teachers. And so we don't want something that takes a lot of time, not a lot of photocopying. It's just something that generates really good thinking, talking, and building sense of number.
The calculator problem, Teen, is a great example, because if you cover up a different number, you have a whole new set of discussion.
And you can design it around if I want students to start thinking multiplicatively, I'm going to take the addition.
Yeah.
So, and then also with that idea that we want these activities to be accessible to as many students as possible, but then also that idea of having a low floor but high ceiling. So some examples that we've provided for you today. So one of the things we would really appreciate if you could take some time. I'll put this slide back up just in a moment. If you could please provide some feedback. There's only 5 quick questions. If you could please help us out by help us to improve this for you next time. Please complete our survey. I'll come back to that slide in just one moment. And then lastly, if you'd like to participate in our Twitter conversation today, maybe to get us started, you could start with question 1.
Right, so what is your go-to Minds-On activity to start your math class, and why do you love it? So we would love to hear from you, because here's some of the stumbling blocks. People don't want to come up reinventing the wheel. There's lots of things out there, and if we can share as a community of learners, then it makes our job much easier.
Yeah, and if you could tag that with hashtag LKMindsOn19, we can all join in and see those activities that you're sharing today. So once again, thank you for everything and joining us today and being a part of our learning and your participation.
Yep, it's been great, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks for participating.
This is Rod from Behind the Curtain, and I've got a Minds-On question for you. Here's my Minds-On question. It's kind of reminiscent of the shepherd problem that you shared. So we got 3 presenters here. What do you get if you take one presenter who's got 4 kids, 2 dogs, and 2 bunnies, and add to that one of the presenters has 2 little girls and somehow has this outlandish goal of possibly visiting 280 provincial parks, and add to that another presenter who's got 1 daughter who's going to be going to King's College in a few days. You get all these 3 wonderful people. Thanks very much, Kate and Teen and Carlo. It was very engaging. You did a wonderful job of showing us how an online tool can still engage participants from remote locations. I thought it was a wonderful job that you did, and I look forward to seeing where the discussion goes. I'll let everyone else know that this recording of this session and the resources connected to it are posted up on the Dropbox account for this shared conference. And I hope everyone goes and has a wonderful day. You guys are wonderful, rich, fully lived people who have big lives above you and around you, and you took time to share with us. So thanks on behalf of everyone for doing that today.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rod.
Thank you. Thanks, Carlo.